I know I've been on some podcasts before, but if you don't know me, my name is Jermaine Hodge. I don't mind sharing some information with this guy because honestly, it's all public land.
Hmm.
If they don't figure it out one year, they're going to figure it out the next
The
year
next
anyways.
year. That's right.
And if I could help them cut the curve down and to be successful, and for them to say, you know what, some of my success was from this person. I love
Absolutely.
that. I love
Yep.
that. I enjoy that, and that's what I'm all about. I'm not here to hide any fishing holes or hide any hunting holes
Hmm.
because at one point in a year or two, you're gonna figure it out with or without myself. But if I could help you be successful on your first year or your second year, man, that's a bonus to me. Came to Colorado, and then I was like, holy smokes, we're in elk country
The
now.
Mecca.
What can the mecca of elk country? I can't miss this opportunity. So I started trying to teach myself how to elk hunt and how to call elk. And I cut my teeth in 2006. 2005, I missed a draw. And then 2006, I jumped into it head first. It was like diving in the pool and didn't know how to swim. and and everybody's like, "No, save him!" No, I don't need.
I
I don't need no
don't need
floaties.
saving.
Let's go. I don't need no floaties. Let's go. And so I killed my first elk in 2006, which was my first season. And I'll tell you a brief story. My wife was pregnant, and she was due in September. Who makes babies in September? I was the one.
Fool's Day.
So I didn't know. And anyway, she says you got to be home every night. I was like, every night? That's a 2 hour drive. 2 hours up, go hunt, 2 hours
Come
back.
back. Yep.
So I made the promise to her that I'd be home every night because she was due early September. And sure enough, lo and behold, I found some elk, and I couldn't call them in by myself because I was a beginner caller, and there was some things that I just couldn't figure it out yet. And I called a friend up, and he wasn't a very good caller, and I stuck a hoochie mama in his hand. I said, "Man, listen, I just need you to back off where I am. We're gonna set up in this location, and I'll call these elk down, and uh, and then I need you to take over with the hoochie mama so you can close the distance, and I can get a good shot on this bull because at the time I think my effective range at that time was no more than 55 yards, and I said I just need to close the distance. Well, anyways, we get into the area and we parked this Jetta. We took a Jetta up there, by the way. It was a Jetta. It was a diesel Jetta back in the backwoods. Neither one of us, I think neither one of us knew what the heck we were doing. And we went back in there. I called these elk down, and one committed. It was a raghorn, little 5x3 comes in, and I didn't care. I was just trying to be successful. And so I had my buddy. I shut up. I told him. I said, as soon as I shut up, man, I want you to take over. And he heard me shut up, and he just started hoochie momming it away. And sure enough, this elk comes in at 40. He does a couple of circles. He doesn't see anything, but it wasn't no good shot. And then when he turned broadside, I smoked him. It happened so fast, I didn't even realize that I killed the elk. I was like, I don't even know if I shot him. So he piled up. He piled up, not even 40, maybe 50 yards away at the most. And um, so that was my very first experience elk hunting, but it was addictive. I had something that was super hard. It was just as hard as if I was stepping on the stage wrestling, and it was a challenge there, and I loved that challenge. So some days,
Yes, sir.
and they watching film, and they are watching their competitors and what they're doing and when they do it, because you know what happens? They have habits, just like elk. They have habits on a consistent basis, regardless of where you are, what state you are. If you throw out a call to an elk, he's going to have a consistent pattern. And if you can try to kind of realize this pattern they're throwing out, then you're going to be successful regardless of what state you're in. Now, Oregon might be a little different. The Roosevelt, that might be a little different. I haven't hunted Roosevelt. That's practice that probably 30 minutes or more a day leading up to my very first season. But what I will tell you is that wasn't where my money was. Hey, babe, can you grab an open read that's on the lantern in there? And that wasn't where I really dialed in like my tunes. And I apologize for everybody that's watching. I have my wife grab a open read for me, and it really doesn't matter what open read. But what I will tell you is this. Thank you, babe. What I will tell you is this: is I use a lot of open read. I mean, this
like
is
the
just
Duck
some
Man.
of them. Hey, listen, if you go back and you look at, and if you want to see more pictures of me, I had a duck lanyard.
Yes, sir. I saw that.
I had a duck lanyard with open reads on there.
I think it's your first post to Instagram.
Yeah. My Instagram was one of my first posts, and I looked at it and I was like, dang, I got like a duck lanyard of all these reads. And I still have that duck lanyard, by the way. But so I wanted to be different, especially in the elk woods. And I started realizing, like, watching the videos, they would throw out a bunch of different calls and just sound like a herd. I never knew what these elk were saying. I couldn't even tell you what they were saying on TV at the time. But what I could tell you is this: I didn't humanize elk language until this point where in my life where I'm like, all right, I kind of know what they're saying. But so I used a lot of open reads in this situation. And I honestly, I mastered an elk, like a cow sound immediately, and didn't know why. Maybe it was something that was destined to be, but when I threw a diaphragm in my mouth, I could make a cow sound. And everybody knew, man, that's a pretty good elk sound. But what I didn't master is bugling through a tube and how to bugle through a tube with a diaphragm. So I was using the Primos Terminator to locate the bulls. So back to your question is, I didn't start like mastering sounds until about 2009. 2009 is when I went over the hill and I was like, all right, I think I got this figured out. Now I need to figure out what they're saying. So I can master all the sounds. Now what are they saying when they do that? And that's when I started diving in a little further. But I cut my teeth on open reads. I cut my teeth on open reads, and I figured out how I can use the Primos tube to call them in. I can use a diaphragm to mule them in, but I can use an estrus whine with the open read, and that was like just over the top. And after that point, I was like, I think looking at videos and watching other people, why they hardly ever use the open reads. They use the open reads just in case they need to make a different sound, but they, from a standpoint of you trying to get them to sound off, and locate these bulls, and then we can dive in a little bit deeper into, trying to locate bulls. But you hiked up some ridge and you want to get them to sound off. You have to throw out a location bugle. So a lot of people, this is controversy, and a lot of people start off with a lot of different things. I change it up all the time. I might start off with a cow sound. I might start off with, a location bugle. I change it up all the time. But what I will tell you is this: a location bugle, I wanna see if there's something in there. if there's something in there. And I'll start off with the location bugle, and that'll get, if there's a bull in there, that'll get it, hopefully it'll get him speaking. And he's gonna answer off with another location bugle saying, "Hey, I'm over here too, buddy." You know, and we're just, I like humanizing it because we're humans and we speak language just like they do, but we don't understand exactly what they say. We try to say it. I mean, we try to understand what they're saying. And as we come up with more videos and more people are coming up with more videos, you could almost understand what they're saying just by body language. And if you pay attention to an elk long enough, you can be like, oh, he's horny. Oh, he's telling the other ones to get away, you know? So just off body language, you could almost tell exactly what they're saying. So for me, a location bugle going out there and speaking to them is huge. If I'm answering this question right, I want to go out there and I want to say, hey, who's out here? You throw it out there in the canyon. And believe it or not, let's say you were on a different ridge and I was on a different ridge, and it's within hearing distance, and I say, help! You'd probably say, hey! You'd yell back at me, right?
Right.
So if I threw a location bugle out saying, hey, who's out there? Somebody might say, hey, I'm over here. So a location bugle is where I start first. And I start there, and we can get into a little bit more advanced stuff, but I start with location bugle first. And did I steer that off the wrong direction?
No. It's perfect. It's perfect.
And I throw a location bugle out, and I'm trying to get a bull to respond. If he doesn't respond, I might give him something a little different. I have a bugle tube here. I throw out a location bugle for you.
Go ahead.
Hopefully the audio is good.
I might grab mine and try and beat you a little bit, man, since I had up on that stage.
I love competition.
I'm just talking shit. I can't blow that
good. So I run up. I run up. I'm hiking up this ridge. I get to a point where I think there's a bull there. Maybe I know, maybe I don't know. And I throw out a location bugle, and it sounds nothing like this. It's elongated cow sound, and it drops off. Sounds like this. And all I'm trying to do is get him to respond. So all I'm saying is, hey, who's out there? And as soon as he responds, is then when I know his location. Now, granted, you're gonna hunt with buddies. They're gonna be rambling through their packs. They're gonna be trying to fish for water. That's when you need to separate yourself from those guys. But if you're by yourself, throw out a location bugle. Whether it's through a Primos tube or easy blow estrus with the Primos making this new tube they got is phenomenal. But if you're blowing through an easy blow tube with the built-in reed, no problem. Just location bugle, drop it off. You don't have to chuckle with it. You don't have to do anything with it. All I want him to do is respond. He's going to respond with another location bugle saying, hey, I'm over here. Once he does, you pinpoint his location or somewhere around his location, and then I'm moving in. Now, if you go into a basin and he doesn't respond with the location bugle, maybe you hit him with a few cow sounds, and then you hit him with another location bugle. It may just sound like this. And then you wait a couple minutes. He might wait a little bit and be like, oh, that sounded good. And then he responds. See where he was. If they didn't do that, I did a few cow sounds. If they didn't sound off, I just cover ground. and I covered ground until one sounded off, and then when one sounded off, I used my open rigs and I used my other stuff to move in and try to get them to pull them in close. So for me, that was like overhead. Like, this is where I'm coming over the curve and it's all downhill, and all I got to do is master this. And once I mastered like a location bugle, then I can get into some of the technical calls and starting to figure out where they wanted to go. So when you get, you go out there and you throw out a location bugle and he locates back. You move in to where you think that's appropriate. My appropriate distance before I try to relocate him. Now, let's say he answers 800 yards away. Well, I might have to locate him a couple times while I'm moving in. But let's say I threw out a location bugle and he answers 200 yards away. Well, I may only have to move 75 yards to close the distance. And then the question would be is whether he has cows or he's by himself. Now, I'm going to figure this out one or two ways. He answered with the location bugle. The next thing I'm going to do is when I move in that 75 yards, so granted, we're back on the subject of he answered 200 yards away. I move in 75 yards. I close the distance quite a bit within where he's really close. And I might throw out a very low tone location bugle. And I'm listening to his tone of voice. It might be raspy, nasty, growly. I'm just listening to him. And as I listen to him, I'm trying to pick a couple different things away. I'm trying to pick whether he wants to fight or whether he's telling me that, I'm cool right where I am, about to move off. You stay where you are. Now we're talking about, especially during September, those months of September, when the rut's starting to go on, the pre-rut, the rut, and the post-rut. September is a crazy month, and you can have ups and downs in September.
Man.
But let's just say early in September, I throw out a location bugle, just like I displayed earlier. He answered 200 yards away. I closed in 75 yards. I'm within 125, right? And next thing I might do is another location bugle, but it might sound a little softer. And this is the reason why I say this, because if you know he's that close, why would you blow his head away by saying, hey? I'm not going to do that. I already know he's really close. So I might just throw a contact bugle out. And the contact bugle sounds like this. Little growly, like, hey, where are you at? Kind of thing. And I'm just asking him where he is. Now, if he comes back ripping, immediately, I have my diaphragm in my mouth. Immediately, I cut him off and say, I'm the baddest one, not you. And now I'm going to pick a fight. So I'm going to pick a fight. I'm going to pick a fight with him.
That is what I call the sex appeal of elk hunting, right?
Oh, man, it is amazing.
That is where 90% of us, right? And I'm using 90 for a reason, because it's 10% success rate pretty much across the board. That's where 90% of us go wrong, is because we get so drawn into the sex appeal of that challenge, right? Dude, that's where that 10% of success, right? Well, we'll say 8% because there's 2% of those guys, they say just kill them year after year, it don't matter. But that's where the biggest, in my head, the biggest fail point is rushing into that scenario without taking the time to decipher what they're talking about.
What's going on?
Yes, sir.
What is going on and what they're saying. So
it's the funnest part of it.
Yeah. So But it took me years to learn this.
Mm-hmm.
What I will tell for a beginner caller is don't rush the situation. If you get into the situation, I'll reflect back. Can I reflect back? I'm gonna reflect
Yeah.
back to like a Primo's video. I can't remember exactly who said this, but what I will say this is they said, if that bull is answering to a call and you're within that zone, and I'm gonna call my zone within that 125 range, you're in that zone, you can't see that elk, but you know he's close. And he's answering to that one particular call, keep doing it. Keep doing it. And he keeps answering, keep doing it. Now, if you're getting into advanced calls and you want to kill a mature bull, now we have to start thinking about outside the box. What is he saying? What's his language? What's his tone? Because if I started yelling at you right now, you're gonna be like, why are you yelling at me? That's a violent term. You're yelling at me, right? Elka the same way. If I started cutting as you're talking and I started cutting you off without apologies, because we're gonna be cutting each other off because we're cutting the podcast, right? So we're gonna be cutting each other off all the time because we just speaking. But if you're speaking and I'm listening and I started cutting you off, you're gonna get a little pissed at me. You're like, man, that's fucked up. You keep cutting me off. But what I will tell you is elk are the same way. Elk are the same way. So if I went in there and I did a very like a contact bugle, like where are you at? And as soon as he bugles, I cut him off. That bull is gonna fire up immediately. I don't know one bull, but what I won't do is I won't over drown him. I just keep it the same level.
Mm-hmm.
Same aggression level, same tone, maybe even smaller. I would even tend to say a little smaller. I'm aggressive anyways when I'm hunting, but even a little smaller bull that keeps cutting him off, that'll drive them nuts.
Painting a
And
picture.
yes, and you're painting that picture for him in his mind, and he'll be like, you know what, f this. I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna beat this little boy up, and I'm gonna show
Yep.
him who the man is, and he can hang out with me, but I'm gonna demonstrate to him who the man is.
Mm-hmm.
So, but for the beginner caller, I think don't rush into the situation. Don't get so hasty and be like, oh my god.
It's hard.
Let's break it down in elk fashion here. We're on the side of a hill. These elk aren't answering. They're not doing anything. We can't get a bugle. We can't buy a bugle. We just walked in the bar, remember? We're going to start talking to the ladies. Joe Turner does it best, man. He does it best. And what happens when you start talking to the ladies is you get a response that's out of this term. Now his grunts, I mean his glunking is off the chain. I haven't even mastered that. And I'm still learning to this day, excuse me. I'm still learning to this day. His glunks are amazing.
Absolutely.
So if he throws in a breeding sequence, as a human,
I'm running over.
I'm running over there. Running over there. Hey, daddy. But what I will say is, what I start doing is I never throw any chuckles or grunts into my stuff. I might go into something that I might hit the tube, and I don't know if y'all can hear that, but
there he goes.
I'm glunking, right? But if there's a far ridge, that bull's not going to hear that glunking. It's hard to hear that from a tube. But what I will do to him is I'll do this. And it might go like this. And I'm initiating a breeding sequence. Now, can I glunk and stuff like that? I might hit my tube. I can't do it like Joe Turner. Amazing.
Yeah.
But what I will tell you is you don't have to sound like Joe Turner. You don't have to sound like Rocky or any of those other guys. But if you could just get into that like those bulls, they know what's going on. And I'm a painting the picture again.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine us going down the hallway. We're going to play spades together, and you hear, ah. You're gonna look. You're gonna look. If you don't entertain anything, you're gonna look. If you could look through the peephole, you would try to look through the peephole of that door.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the truth. It's the truth.
Oh,
so
yeah.
when you try to elicit a response out of non-bugling elk, and you know it's elk in there, throw out a breeding sequence and you will get the response that you need. And if you don't get a response and you go to the other side of that ridge and you don't get a response, move. They're not in there. Low audible sounds are some of the best techniques, especially in high pressure areas. You don't have to sound mean and aggressive, but those are some of the best techniques. And on public land, high pressure areas, you can just hit them with a calf sound. Shut it up. Hit them again with it. And sometimes you'll get bulls to answer. It's amazing. I am a firm believer of low audible sounds in high pressure areas.
Head's got to be on a swivel. I mean, that
absolutely.
Your story there lends itself to it, right? Because it's amazing to me that an animal of that size can creep in on you. Yeah, be 8 feet away, and then you could be shit. I've had them. I'm walking down a trail, right? I'm like, okay, I want to get to that spot for whatever reason, right? Heard something, just have a feeling about it. Scouted it during off season, whatever. Walking down a trail, look right, look left, look back right, turn around into left, and you got
he's looking at you.
Yeah, you got a bull or 2 cows and a calf walking right next to you. You're like, where did they come from? Mm-hmm. Like, how did that creature, right, 600-700 pounds, walk in? And then you get a bull to do it, and he has, these 4 foot, 4.5 foot antlers sticking off his head, and you ain't heard him walk in at all. It is crazy.
I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna go back to sometimes you just make a calf sound or a cow sound. And literally, and I'm gonna move my video around. I'm sorry, so because this thing is starting to get black on me. But you move around in the woods, you got nothing to answer. You know it's elk in there. Sometimes you just make a calf sound, and the calf or cow sound, it doesn't really matter. You go in the woods, don't have to be a loud calf. And then your buddy starts kind of raking a tree. Those are low audible sounds. They ain't gonna go carry ridge to ridge. Those are low audible sounds. You know what happens? You draw a response. You draw a response immediately. And in the raking, it could be just on a tree. You grab a deadfall tree and you just rake it up and down. All you heard, you didn't hear no bugles. All you heard was all he heard was a cow sound and a couple rakes, and it draws him in. Every day to better yourself, do it, especially if you have a tag. And I explain this, and I really mean well by it, but there's a lot of different things that you have to do to prepare yourself for elk hunting and in the Western states. And I explain it like I do when I'm wrestling. You first you have to have the drive and the fortitude to say, you know what, this is what I want to do. These are my goals. So that ain't even a line in the factor. But what is in the factor is nutrition, your diet, keeping yourself somewhat healthy, and physical condition. You don't have to be the most fit on the mountain, but you have to be physical fit for yourself to be able to say, you know what, I can hike this mountain and not breathe heavy. And if I do get the opportunity, my heart's not beating through the roof where I can't pull the trigger on this animal. And if you can't, if your heart's beating through the roof and your nerves are off the chain, don't even pull the trigger. Don't even pull your bow. Don't even load a bullet in the chamber. Next thing is that if you keep your diet and all that in check, the next thing you have to do is you have to do research. You know where these animals are. You know what you have to do to get to that point. And those are your e-scouting and all that other stuff that comes in play. And if you have people on podcasts, maybe you can reach out with them on Instagram and hit them with a DM and say, hey, I'm in Colorado or I'm in Wyoming or Montana. This is what I got. What do you suggest? Don't be afraid to ask those questions, because if you don't ask, you don't know.
No.
You don't know. Next thing I'm gonna tell you is be efficient with your equipment, meaning whether it's a bow or whether it's your rifle. Here in the Western states, we could take some long range shots. Long range. I didn't realize that until I came out to Colorado. We could shoot bombs out here. But I practice at these 70, 80 yards, but I don't have to take those shots if I can call them in. Now, on that same line, I call this animal in. Now my calling ability comes in a factor. And I'm talking about being able to use a diaphragm, being able to use a open reed, call them in as close as possible. Now, if you're a rifle hunter and you can shoot out those long ranges, gravy. But you still have to practice those long ranges to be able to do that. So on that line, you have your calling ability, you have your long range shots, your short range shots, your bringing them in close kind of thing. So you have to read it like an EKG. You if on a medical field, you're looking at those waves in the line, and hey man, this guy's heart rhythm is something wrong with this. And if you got dead lines, you're done, man.
None.
You're done. You're done. So I'm gonna bring it in the perspective of make sure like these lines are as equal and as on rhythm as possible before you come out to hunt elk in these high altitude areas. And then reach out to people and touch base with them, because they'll hit you up with a wealth of knowledge that you might not realize that it's going to pay dividends for you.
That's right. So you said a couple things in there, right? And the one that I really like is, and this takes some real honesty on a guy's part, don't pull the bow back, right? If there is question, if you're struggling that much and you have that bull coming in, you have to be, I get it, right? And I'm in the same boat. I'm traveling out of state to go hunt. I get more time than most. But you got X amount of days, and I understand you want to get it done, but you got to know that if you're struggling with nothing in your pack, if you are fortunate enough to be in the position to kill an elk, you need to be cognizant of the fact that your workload is going to increase 1,000-fold when you got to make 4 or 5 trips to pull that elk out of the woods. Not only do we owe it to ourselves and our families to get home safely, we owe it to that animal to be in enough fitness,
physical condition,
right? But mentally too, to understand that we're in a bad position and we can risk that animal. I've heard plenty of guys like, man, I can't make another trip back in to get the rest of that beat out. That shit ain't right. That hurts me. That hurts me deeply. That shit ain't right. So you have to be in a position to be honest with yourself, willing to blow that tag for what we'll call the moral and ethical side of what we do, right? That empty still gonna have to work a little bit.
That's right.
All right, brother. Well, I absolutely, man, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Hope we continue to talk, and build a relationship. I will see you at Hunt Expo. We'll get you set down in the initial ascent booth,
Oh, that'd
and
be
talk a little
awesome.
elk hunting, talk about how your season was. But man, I appreciate it, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it. Thanks again.
Thank you.